Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the 2nd of February for the Board of Education's work session. It's 5:31 p.m. Brennan, can you call the roll?
Mr. King,
I'm here.
Ms. Reese,
Present.
Ms. Sebastian,
Here.
Mr. Elam,
Here.
Ms. Mansfield.
I'm here.
Excellent. Does anybody have any additions to the agenda? Oh. Yeah. All right, then moving forward, guidelines for addressing the board. Does anybody have any questions with regards to our agenda? All right. Next up, then we'll start with number 4, important dates for the district.
There's no attachment right now. I think
Okay.
we're still working on it.
All right. That's, well, and also review what's going to be on the agenda for the board meeting, so that would be on there.
Yeah.
So I guess the most important date is next Monday.
It's an executive file, Brennan.
Yeah.
He's in,
She didn't put it.
Oh, gotcha.
he's in the open side.
Yeah.
So, we have the facilities committee meeting starting at 6
Yeah.
Monday, and then followed by the Board of Education meeting at 7. So those are important. Number 5 is items for discussion is treasurer search with K-12 consulting. So turn it over to Ms. Bennett.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. First, I guess I would like to ask who of the board members were here when K-12 did the search? That question.
All at once.
All but
but
one.
Okay,
Ms.
so,
Mansfield.
all right, so I won't go into like real depth, but I did bring some information for you. So that if you didn't have it from before, you want to look at it. So, and this one does include my bio, because I was not here with K-12 when we retired. So, and I do have
2 more.
the other 2 board members. But I have been with K-12 for a couple of years now, and I have been doing the majority of the side for the treasurer service. And I am a retired treasurer, so the company, if you remember, was started by Chris Moore, who is a retired treasurer. He's also a past president with OASBO. And all of those that are helping him with the forecast, and myself, are all past presidents of the Ohio Association of School Business Officials. While I was a retired treasurer for 30 years, my degree is actually in organizational management. And that's kind of my love, is the human side of things.
Right.
So it fit right in for me to work with Chris on the treasurer searches. So the brochure that's in there, and I said also includes my bio for you. And I did include, Mr. King, contracts, 2 different contracts in there. So if you decide,
Okay.
it's on the left-hand side behind the letter. If you decide that you do want to employ K-12, there are 2 contracts in there. One is the bronze level search and one is the silver level search, whichever you choose. Just a little bit of information on the differences in those search, and it is in the brochure. So if you don't remember everything I say, you want to go back and look. The biggest differences between the bronze search and the silver, and the majority of our districts do go with the silver search. There's also the gold level search. I have trouble with math saying gold and silver. So
Yeah.
we typically see the gold for really large city schools. Dublin, I think, probably used it. It has a component in there where there's like a meet and greet. We see a lot more of that when they're doing superintendent searches. But for the large cities, we see those for the treasurer searches. The bronze search, which is the lowest level, that doesn't include as much for like the profile that we include. It only has 1 day of first round interviews, has a shorter time period for recruitment. And while the few districts that have had that, they've been very, very small rural schools that, they just need to get it done. The silver, like I said, has the component of the profile, which I find extremely valuable for the board. The profile includes a questionnaire. The only thing that is different now than what is in the brochure, and that is that we were going in and doing the profile questionnaires for the staff and the administration. And because of COVID, we're doing that virtually. So we're doing that the same as we do with the board. We're sending out the questionnaire, pulling that information back in, then putting together the profile. The profile tells the board what people are, and we'll have the board, the administration, superintendent, obviously. We've included the treasurer's office. I've been started to ask them to include, if you have a good, union, a couple of unions. Some of our districts don't have any unions, which is kind of still amazing. But the union reps, because they're the ones that work with the treasurer the most. If you have a community group, like a levy committee or a finance committee, we've found districts that have included those on the profile as well. It tells you what they see as good about the district. It tells us what they see as challenges for the district. And it also says what they see that they feel that needs to be in the next treasurer. Now, I have them say, okay, I want them exactly like Brenner. Okay, well, that's sometimes a little hard to do. But it does really give the board a good idea, because the board participates as well, in what, as a conglomerate, the district is looking for, and also gives you some information about what those groups see of the district itself. The profile we also use for the candidates, because they want to know, what's good about the district? What are the challenges that they might face? What is the board looking for in the next treasurer? So the profile serves as a basis for the board in knowing what they look for when they're doing interviews, and also for the candidates that are applying. So I really recommended that, because I think that it gives you a lot of value for the buck. The brochure that we put together, and we've had that for the previous search, it tells about the district. We have information there about the community, about the district, about the finances, particulars of the search itself, what the timeline is, and that again goes out to the mass. OASBO sends it through the OASBO email, so it reaches all of the members of OASBO. It also goes out on the OECN, which is the Ohio Education Computer Network. So anybody that has signed up for that also gets that. So it's not just the treasurers that get the information. We'll get auditors, we'll get assistant treasurers, people in the treasurer's office, and anybody that has signed up for those that goes out. I also do a lot of individualized recruiting. So I make a lot of phone calls. I send a lot of emails. I want to make sure that my job is to make it really difficult for you to make a final decision in the end. If you say, boy, this is a tough choice, then I know I've done my job. I have kind of looked at a timeline, and my understanding is that Brennan is here until July 31st. Am I correct? Unless you guys can convince him to say otherwise.
Right.
That's what I keep hearing. So there are a couple of options if you choose to go with K-12. We could start the search as early as your March work session. If you choose to go with K-12, the contracts are in there. You want to go through that at your regular board meeting in February. I could be here at your March work session. By then I could have your brochure done. I could have your profile done. We need some assistance with your superintendent to reach some of the principals, your administration, Also, some of the community members that you choose to have. So that would be a decision that you would want to make, is who else you would like to have participate in that profile. But I could have the brochure done, the profile done, meet with you and actually have you give those to you ahead of time. So that you can say, yep, that looks great, or we want to change some things. And we could also then set the calendar for the search and give you enough time. I always say that you should at least hire your treasurer, giving them 4 weeks to give good notice. By doing it this way, you could actually have somebody come in, maybe if you want them to come in a little bit early to work with Brennan for a transition. It gives you time to do that. It also gives them a really good space. You would have almost 3 months for them to give somebody else their notice. But maybe 2.5 months if you want them to come in a couple of weeks early or something.
Okay.
So if we went with that time schedule, I could actually have your posting done and ready to go out to OASO and the OECN as early as March 8th. And at any point in time, we have a provision in there if you decide to make a change, what that provision is for services up to that point. Now, if you decide that you want to push it back, and the reason I am suggesting that is because May is forecast season. And treasurers want to get their forecast done. They're not inclined to want to go and do an interview. The second round is a presentation of your forecast, saying what the candidates see in your forecast. And I've actually added another piece during the interviews. I always hear the question, can you explain that to us in layman's terms? And of course, the candidate always says, sure. So I decided that, okay, if you're going to tell me yes, I want you to show me yes. So at the final interviews, I actually have added that into the presentation as a small separate piece. I give them a task and they need to explain it in layman's terms. So show that yes, when I say yes, I can, that I actually can. So that has been a really good piece. It's made people think about it and how they will come across, because that's the communication by far is one of the top criteria for a treasurer. Somebody that we know the numbers, we can talk it in treasurer's deed speak, but can we explain it to the public in a way that they can understand and if they're comfortable. So we've added that in. So with doing that, the interview schedule would be probably in April, that April timeframe. And you could hire the treasurer in April. And then you're not having to worry about somebody not wanting to apply because they know they're too busy doing the work.
Excellent. Do you know, we did the silver program last time, is
Yes.
that correct?
Mm-hmm. I
Okay.
believe so, yes. That also gives you 2 nights of first round interviews. So you can interview up to 6 candidates comfortably. If you really wanted, you said, well, we've got the 7th one, we really want to, we could, put it in there. It does make for a very long day. And that last candidate of the day, you want to make sure that you give your candidates as much attention at the beginning, the first candidate, as you do the last candidate.
Yeah. And we have no problem with long days. we can hang. Then that
That's
was fun. What's the best of?
That's good.
Right? We can put in some work.
Yeah. So that the silver does give you those 2 days, speak for yourself. 2 days of first round interviews, the final interview day. It also gives you the profile.
I'm listening and answering.
That's okay. So those are the advantages of the silver. It also gives you 4 weeks of recruitment time. And the bronze is 3 weeks of recruitment time. So it does give me a little bit more time to really reach out, make sure that I've gotten a hold of everybody that I think would be interested. I usually look at about an hour out from your location for potential candidates. Now, sometimes we'll have somebody that, sees it and, they're either willing to move or, they're a little bit further out, but they're comfortable with that. But I reach out for the recruitment an hour out from your location. Because that's a decent drive time and people can do.
All right. Well, does anyone have any questions?
I do.
All right.
So, last time we were told that there's kind of a good window of opportunity.
Mhm.
And, you said you could start in March
Mhm.
if we wanted that at the work session. Would there be any advantage to starting earlier, or is that the sweet spot of the time frame when we would get the most treasurers looking and probably the best
I don't know
candidates?
if you could start, to start earlier than that. To start in February, would. I need to have time to do the profile. And I usually like to give the folks a week to respond. And since we're at the 2nd of February, by the time we would get it out to them. I mean, if you had a special board meeting, we'd have to wait until you agreed. If you decided to sign a contract tonight, I can start with things tonight. But your regular board meeting is next week. I don't think that there's really any advantage to starting 2 weeks early.
Okay, that was the question.
Yeah, I don't
Because
think
would
that-
we get
yeah.
a better sweet spot of
I don't think that
candidates
you really-
by starting early?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to go much later. If you went later, you would want to go another month later because you don't want to be the unsweet spot is that month of May.
Okay.
Because we find that difficult for people to come in and try to really focus because they're doing their own forecast. And a lot of them take a lot of time when they do that final presentation, that second round, in evaluating your forecast. And so you want to be able to allow them time to do that. So that May timeframe might, limit some people where the rest of the March is a good timeframe. Going back to February really doesn't enhance that any.
Well, last time you folks went through this, how many candidates do you remember you received as far as applicants?
Yeah, probably 20,
Something like that.
20 plus.
Oh, that's really good.
And we whittled it down. We argued over, I think, to the 10, and then we got it down even to like 7 or 8.
So you don't think you had a problem? You can't get your numbers.
I don't think so.
I-
We haven't in the past, but
When did you do it
we're a
last
new,
time?
there's more progressive things that are going on. A lot of things
You're in-
that
you're
just
in
put into
June.
place that may make it.
We did it in June last
difficult.
time.
Yeah, June is probably a little, that's, people are thinking because you want to be able to have it by that time.
Big hole.
I will tell you that up until like the last year or so, Chris has been saying that it's more of a puddle than. Now, I have not experienced that in the last year and a half. Actually, the district that I'm doing right now on the other end of the state, we had 16 candidates. And Chris was shocked that we had that many. But I've been averaging 10 to 12 for districts, and this one just happened to have 16. So you're in a good location. And that really plays into it a lot. You have to be able to have enough of a pool in the area that you're at. So 20 at the time, I'll have to talk to Cindy about that. That is the other thing is either Cindy Ritter and Jenny Logan were the search consultants. One or the other of them will be the second that'll be here the nights of the interviews.
Okay. That's good.
Any other questions that I can answer for you?
Lawyer Lida?
Yeah, mine's kind of an awkward question. It's just weird. So in every contract-based business that I've been in where it's contract employment, there's always a time of year when the candidates who are basically left or available are the ones you really kind of don't want. Is there a time of year when we really should not be trying to post a job?
I don't really think that you find that with treasurers.
Okay.
Because there isn't as much of a deterrent for a board to release their treasurer as they maybe are for their principals or their teachers, because it's more difficult to replace. For treasurers, we do have a decent pool of interim treasurers, and Brennan's going to be here long enough that it really gives them a good time frame to give their current board good notice. So there really isn't a time frame that you get what's left. because the turnover, we find a lot of what I call the domino effect. And sometimes at the end of the domino effect, it is so far out from where the first location is, that you have a whole other pool of candidates that you're pulling from. So the domino may start, actually, I have one in Olmsted Falls. The domino started in Olmsted Falls.
It's right in high school.
Now it's gone to Western Reserve, and the potential for those that have applied for Western Reserve are in south and west of that location. So it does pull from a different locale. So I really haven't experienced anything of what's left. And I don't look at what's left.
Thank you.
You can't see the smile behind my face. But that's,
No, but I can tell, we can tell you what.
I don't look for what's left for you.
Yes. Excellent. Anything else? All right.
Just
Well,
double checking, make sure I didn't have, I do want to,
Yeah.
because I know it's been a while, but this, so I can pass this down so you can take a look at it. This is the interview binder that you will receive from K-12. We put together everything. You don't have to bring anything with you the nights of the interviews. You don't have to print off anything. All of the candidates are on the K-12 website, so you'll have those at least a week before we get together to review the candidates and make that decision. So you'll have that electronically so you can review them. For those that are chosen to be the candidates you're going to interview, you will have all of the information that they have provided in front of you. You will have the schedule. You'll have the interview questions. I will review the interview questions with you. If there's anything in particular that you want to ask, I will modify those questions to get at that specific question that you want answered. So all of that will be provided for you. And we do modify even the final round questions other than the presentation. If there's something that you haven't gotten at and you want to, then we'll make sure that you have that opportunity during the final round as
excellent.
well.
Well, and I think, we're always kind of innovative, and that's the word I'm going to use for it. To, modify questions that we believe will suit our needs and make the ending presentation a little different. So we all just like to be innovative.
And I appreciate that, because every district has something specific that they really want to know how that person is going to fit in their district. And so it's important to modify those questions. Well, there's some general questions
Mhm.
that you want to know. There are those that are specific to each district that gets at the definite information that you want. Is that person going to be a good fit for this district? So we will modify those.
And I think if we select the silver level as we did last time, I will be very curious to see the comparison of the what is it?
Profile.
The profile and the needs and what people think now versus what they
Versus
thought
then.
before.
Mhm.
I just think that'll be really unique to see.
Anyway, it's almost like a 360, a district 360, obviously not as detailed. I'm also certified with Stephen Covey with Seed of Trust and Payment Fair on 360 and climate and style assessments.
Mhm.
So yes, it does get at some of those things, obviously not as deep,
Right.
but it is, a district-wide look at, what do we see? I know that there are times that people they'll say that they want these things because they're exactly like the treasure that they have and they really like those things. I can have the exact same list of things that somebody wants, and it's because the treasurer didn't have those things.
Right.
So, you never know. It could be the same list for both, but it could be because that they really appreciate what they have, and that's what they do.
Yes.
So,
We
So
seem
yeah,
to be in
this-
that boat.
so we do try to put everything together so that, like I said, there is nothing that you have to bring with you. The schedule is here. I also help with the contract negotiations the final night. When I leave here the final night, you will have somebody that is committed to be the treasurer, and you will have a contract prepared. So I work through the contract. You don't have to worry about any of that. We make sure that it goes through the school attorney, make sure that everything looks as it should. even though the attorney probably looked at the current contract anyway. I've always had them make some kind of adjustment, some kind of little tweak, even though they did it to begin with.
Well, the current contract is basically your contract, K-12's, right?
Oh, no, the contract for the treasurer.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the one that you guys did for us last time.
Oh, well, and which was probably the one that you had for the treasurer before, and they just modified it for you. So, yeah, no?
I don't think I could find the one from Bethel.
No, no,
Oh,
the,
very different.
Got an interim.
Yes,
Go ahead, Lori.
the contract we used before we took our previous treasurer's contract and you modified it for us. That's correct. That's what we did.
okay, yes.
I mean, we don't have to do that, but that's what we did. That was our starting point. And then Cindy and Jenny talked to us about some things we might want to add in. I did have one question. First of all, I wanted to thank you for coming down. Thankfully, the weather was not like last night. So thank you for driving down today, Dee. Really appreciate you being there. Jacob made a good point about the profile. I believe all the treasure staff is new since we've done a treasure search. Remember, we got a assistant treasurer and a new accounts payable person since Brennan's arrived. So I think it would be very beneficial. What will they participate, refresh my memory, in the interview process, or is that something they just give their feedback?
The treasurer staff gives their feedback through the profile. They do
Okay,
not
so-
participate in the interviews, no. The board and the superintendent, the board asks questions. I always ask the superintendent. I feel it's important for the superintendent to be involved, but I don't typically have the superintendent ask any questions because that gives them the opportunity to pick up on nonverbal cues, make additional notes that while the board is focusing on asking the questions, the superintendent can kind of pick up on some of those other nuances. And I said, now, who was not here when they hired Brent? Somebody on
Miss
this.
Mansfield.
All right.
And,
You're
yeah,
here. I said, this gives you everything, and this will come to you the day of
that
the
looks
interview?
extremely familiar.
yes, I'm sure it does. So, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't sure who all was here, so I would try to bring one just in case so that you actually do know what the final product is for you. I will provide you with questions to ask your final candidate for their references, because we asked the board to do the reference checks. So you will have a list of questions to do the reference checks between the first round interviews and the second round interviews, so that you have those to share when you're actually finished interviewing your final candidates.
Excellent.
Anything else that I can answer for you?
I think so. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was much nicer driving. I drove from Western Reserve back to Findlay yesterday and last night. Not such a great drive as it was down here today.
I bet.
So I kept thinking, okay, all I gotta do is get back to Findlay in time to leave there by 3 o'clock. So if I have to stay up there, as long as I get back to get here tonight, that was good. So anyway, and Lori has my email address and my phone number is on the profile as well in there. So like I said, we can start as early as you decide you want to, when you just let me know if we are your choice. And when the contract was signed, if you come back electronically to me or however, and I'll get you a fully executed copy so that Brendan has that for the purchase order and we can get started.
Excellent. And if we're going to make a decision by next meeting, Ms. Sebastian will follow up with you
Okay.
prior to.
Absolutely. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.
You
Safe
too.
travels.
Yes. All right. It almost makes me feel nauseous.
I don't
doing
know.
this, but we'll move on to, not this part, right? We're just having to do this, but number 6, the treasurer's item.
Thank you, Mr.
So
King.
we're not gonna talk about, we're gonna do the silver, or we're gonna do this at the next meeting.
No, I figured we would go into the discussion at the end, unless you guys all want to talk about it right now.
That's fine.
Do you want me to stay or? Any questions or?
All right? Pause. Yeah, I don't think we'll have any questions.
Okay.
So what are you guys' thoughts on what you want to do with regards to to go in K-12.
So the silver package is the middle one, and that's the one we did last time.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good package.
Me too.
I don't. I'm okay with that.
I am too. I thought we had a lot of success last time.
Yeah. Lori?
Well, I really appreciate you guys considering K-12 again. I know I told you this last time we talked. I would fight you if you didn't want to do this because I think it just adds so much value to have an outside candidate come in and run the search. Everybody's treated the same, and then and we don't have to do all the HR and all that stuff that they're talented at. I was extremely impressed with Dee with her credentials, with the HR background. Even though she's a treasurer, she's like obviously has expertise in organizational management. So I think she'll serve us well.
Excellent. Lida, anything?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have very little comparative input, but when I'm reading through the materials and what I'm seeing, there's really not enough worth upgrading to gold, but silver definitely seems to have enough things in the package that make it worth going over bronze for sure. And I've really am very appreciative of the idea of everything being put together for me. I've never had a hiring process that had all of the materials pulled together and all the candidates found for me before in any hiring process I've done. And that would be amazing. So I would appreciate that very much.
Excellent. Sounds like a great plan, something for us to go forward with at the next board meeting. We will then put that into motion.
All right. You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
All right. Now, sorry about that. Moving on now back to number 6, treasurer's items. Mr. Hatter.
Board have following items for review. Minutes from January, so it'll be the organizational meeting, the regular board meeting, and then the special meeting that we had on the 25th. Also, list of bills paid for January, the monthly financial report, minute appropriations, general fund increased. Usually I do this in January as I see how things are going. Mainly this is related to insurance. Once we got everything finalized, remember we had 2 open enrollment periods because they switched us over from October, September to January to December. So I kind of waited until we got all the, if there was going to be any changes between those 3 months, and I updated that. Food service is mainly related. We have to have staff for cleaning of the tables and sweeping, you know, that they spray down all the tables and chairs. So we have some additional kitchen aid, lunchroom aid that are doing that. So we have to bump up the cost related to that. Capital projects is related to the beginning of the pre-construction meeting agreement for the commission agent, as well as there was a cost I missed related to Garmin Miller related to reimbursable expenses that I forgot to add on the original PO, and as well as the management fees we're starting to see related to Red Tree investments that I didn't know what they would be on an average, so I bumped that up. So those are the big ones. Those are the ones to note in the amendment changes. Donations. This is a list of donations since the last board meeting that we have received. Majority of them are related to junior prom committee, and then BASA donated $1,000 to athletics for using of the soccer fields. And then review of transfers. This is a typical thing every year. Once the graduating class is done, if there's any left funds, we usually transfer it to the junior class to help with costs related to prom. And this is good this year since they're not as able to do as many in-person fundraisers. And this will help with the potential cost of prom is.
That's a nice amount.
Before, yes. So that's what, if you remember, we lowered this year the class fee too from 40 to 30. as well. So that junior year of the class fund, that's for fundraising and everything. Senior year is the senior class fee that goes towards graduation. And that is all I have.
All right.
Any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
And the appropriations, the food service, is that basically because of COVID?
Yeah.
We're doing extra cleaning?
Yeah, we have to have extra staff. So that we've had to get 4 additional kitchen, and they each have sections, cleaning the tables and everything. So after each lunch, that's what they're doing between the lunch changes.
And are we able to pay for that out of any CARES money or?
We were using the food service fund. Yeah, yeah.
Are they, so with the reduction in the number of students that are here in the elementary, with the additional people doing the cleaning and assisting, are they finding that the lunch periods for elementary exchanging easier and faster?
They still have the same amount of time allotted
Mhm.
for the lunch period, but I would say that the kids are getting through the line quicker because there's less students to serve. But we did have a significant number come back from the second semester. So the majority of the kids that returned from option C were at the K-8 level because that's one of the highest amounts that went out were.
Okay.
So I would say that so numbers have increased in the cafeteria again, and numbers have also increased in teacher classrooms as kids have returned.
Yeah.
But we still have 3 teachers that are instructing on option C because there's still enough kids.
On them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, because of food service, we also, because Pay Schools was gonna stop doing the badges, we bought the printer and the capability of doing the printer too. So that was another increase.
Okay.
So we can print the badges ourselves now and not have to order them. So as we get new students, we don't have to wait for them to
Wait
get
for
their
them
card.
to
They
come in,
can,
yeah.
then the food service can go ahead and print them all.
Yeah, sounds great. So I just know that when I was, came in,
And we're also, we're eating in 3 different areas. In the past, you just ate in Bethel Hall.
oh,
We're now in Bethel Hall. We're also on the stage, and we also are in the Hive area to try to spread out kids more. in the
Oh,
space.
yeah. Yeah, well, then that would make it even more difficult because I know that when I was, came in one day, it was, last year, 2 years ago before all this, as COVID came. But I did a whole lot of putting straws in juice boxes and opening packages. And I mean, there's just a lot, especially when you're doing like the
K1, 2. Yeah.
There's a lot of work going on there.
Yeah.
People need, all the kids need some help. So,
You get those little mixed fruit, and you pull the plastic, and the juice spills everywhere.
yes,
Goes
yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, you gotta be just right. So I just think that, although the positive of, this COVID is actually, putting more people there to help in the system.
And then when we even had been able to have enough people down there, certain individuals have stepped up. I've done it a couple times. Gail Rhodes Transportation done it. Della has done it. Derek Goins has done it, so, because there's a couple lunch period, you don't have enough time. You're pushing it.
Mhm.
So you have, to clean it, but it gave me a better appreciation of what has to be done, so. We're very thankful for the staff that we have that have stepped up.
Yes, very, thank you. Okay,
That's all I have.
all right. Any other questions for Mr. Hattery for next week's meeting and the information he placed for us? Awesome. All right, next up will be, looks like 7 and 8. Turn over to Mr. Burks to drive those.
Thank you, sir. Letter A has to do with the approval of custodial substitute. As we've brought custodial services back on campus, we are also now starting to try to build a pool of potential individuals that could serve as a substitute if we have an employee out for an illness or personal leave, et cetera. So on the agenda this evening is an individual who's would be used as a substitute on an as-needed basis if we're short staffing. Number 8 is to consider or to,
We have that, we have that on for them to approve.
oh, that's on there to approve?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Number 8, letter A is the consideration for review of supplemental. These are assistant coaches and volunteers for spring coaches. So all of these individuals have received or currently have in possession their pupil activity permit. So you can see with the 3 sports in the spring, baseball, softball, track and field, those that will serve as assistants or volunteers. Can also see there's an attachment there as well for a resume also.
And we already approved the head coaches. Those are just some additionals, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. And then 8B is a review of certified substitutes. The Miami County ESC's substitute list has changed, so therefore we need to reapprove it, which we do on a regular basis. C is the replacement of a home instructor. So Mrs. Marvel will now step into that role after Mrs. Duhan decided not to continue in that role. So thank you to her for being willing to take on that additional responsibility. And you can see the rate that's set by the negotiated agreement as far as working on an hourly pay in that position. So this is to essentially assist the students that are at home receiving educational services they need for like their IEPs and those kind of things. Letter D is a change in educational degree status. So congratulations to Mrs. Davidson, who is moving from her bachelor's 150 to her master's degree. So credit to her for continuing her education and receiving that additional degree, which will help her in her work here as a social emotional wellness counselor. And then letter E is to review the continuation of intra-district open enrollment for the 2021-2022 school year based on board policy 5113. And that open enrollment packet is attached for your review as well. It's a similar packet as what we used last year. I just wanted you to have it so you could take a look at it.
Nice to see it.
Essentially, the only thing that changed in it was the year update. So.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Firk on what he's presented?
I was just curious, the change in educational degree, does that begin immediately then after our next
When
meeting?
it's the day that the board,
After next week?
after you guys approve it.
Okay.
So it'll be Monday. If it's done in August, it goes back to the, but since it's in February, it's the day that you guys approve it.
Okay.
For the agreement.
Mr. I had one question about the sports coaches. Have we gotten OHSAA approval for spring sports yet?
So I guess the answer is no, because they haven't told us that we can't. I think the plan is to continue with spring sports as is. I mean, the winter sports are currently going on.
I have no problem approving the coaches, but I'm a little concerned that, I don't know if there's
What I'm trying
someone,
to say is if they weren't going to allow us to play spring sports, they probably wouldn't have allowed us to play winter sports right now.
but I know the coaches are like, they haven't told us we can play yet. So I'm just a little concerned they haven't made a formal announcement. Can you get with Damon and see if there's any updates so you could tell us at the board meeting?
Sure.
Great.
I also have that MOU, remember, in place.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, we can approve these.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Thank you, Brennan. Correct. I'm not worried. I would be shocked if we didn't have spring sports, but I'm just a little concerned why the State High School Athletic Association hasn't approved those yet.
Yeah, I don't think Lori's question was related to the approval of the supplementals at all. I think it was just a generic question of what's up with sports.
Okay. Yeah. I will definitely ask.
I have a question about the open enrollment.
Sure.
So I thought we were kind of not doing that so much anymore, except for those that were kids of teachers and staff.
The
So-
district has traditionally grandfathered those in that were already in the district as
So
well.
they have to apply every time?
Yeah, they still have to fill out an application, I
Okay.
believe. Which I wish we didn't have to do, but they do.
Okay.
So as far as I'm aware, it's staff members can bring their children, and those kiddos that were already in the district, since the district has changed their open enrollment policy, they have grandfathered in to allow them to finish out their educational careers here as well.
I think that policy might be updated because we're still getting calls from people not meeting that criteria final. I don't think it specifically. Because I know I've answered a couple phone calls about it and we're still posting it open in, I believe it's April, first couple weeks of April. But we're still taking applications even though we've kind of established that criteria.
Yeah, I don't think-
It would be easier for us to say we're only taking kids that have been grandfathered in or staff members as open enrollment.
I was under the impression that we did.
We do, but I'm saying people that may live like in Huber or whatever, they're still filling out an application and then we're denying it and sending them a rejection.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to stop them though, if they print it off the internet and send it in the mail.
Right. I'm saying if you can, I think you can update your policy to state more specific.
Yeah, so,
Specific, so we don't even have
So
to,
you don't have to vote.
we don't even have to worry about sending an rejection letter or accepting it. That
Raise
they already-
people's hopes. Okay.
You raise people's hopes right now.
So is the Board of Education in agreement that you guys want to make that change to your policy?
yeah, that was my question when I was reading the packet was, are we going to continue doing this or are we going to actually change our policy like other local districts did last year? And was that going to be your
perspective,
recommendation?
It'd be a lot less work on central office.
Yeah.
If you guys
Yeah.
did, but I don't know how comfortable you feel with that.
So do we
So-
just do away with the applications then? if that's
They
the
still,
case?
they still
You still
have
have to
to,
apply.
they still have to apply, yeah. You just, people will know when they see our open enrollment policy that, hey, if I'm not a staff member and my kid hasn't already been in here, I'm not gonna get, you're not even gonna consider
Right.
it, is what I'm saying.
No, I agree with changing the policy. In fact, I was always kind of upset the policy, I think still reads that even the grandfather part is not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always thought that kind of stinks, you bring your kid here and then the next year they're told they can't because,
Right.
Well, that's happened.
yeah, I know it's happened,
Yeah.
that's, I just don't like that part.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, if you would
Well, and
like,
my opinion is we want to leave that in for grandfathered because if we are out of space, it's possible that, no, we can't service your kid. I mean, I hope we don't have to do that, but we've had to do it in the past when classes have been over full.
so I guess as a collective group, you guys need to just kind of let me know which direction you want to go in, and then I can get, sample policies drafted if that's the direction that you guys want to go in. Or how it currently reads versus if you want to make changes.
Oh, I mean, that was my question was I was going to ask you, what was going to be your recommendation to us? Because as it reads right now, we're open to it and we're cool with it. And then you guys are telling us that then you're getting them and you're saying, no, thank you. So
Yeah, I mean, in my limited time here, I mean, I necessarily don't deal with it as much as other folks in the offices do as far as the receiving of applications and then the ensuing phone calls. I will say that at times it can create some bitterness or hurt feelings when people get rejection letters and basically just saying, well, then why didn't you just tell us from the get-go and wasn't even applied, kind of thing.
Where do they get the form online?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Can
on
we
our
put-
website.
Can we put it on the website that says,
We can, but it's not currently written in our policy that way.
We're currently open to anybody.
We just send rejection letters. So we do waste a decent amount of money in postage every year too.
Do we have a sample language maybe?
I can get
Some language we put on there that we think is appropriate that still keeps us within the requirements of the open enrollment to receive the funding, but also manage expectations of pursuing families that are trying to come here.
I can get some sample language afterward.
and I would want to protect any staff members who may enroll their children. I don't know how many we may or may not have, but if there's a way to do that.
Sure, I'll write that down as well. Anything else that you guys are looking for in that policy?
I think those are the two key
Okay.
Key pieces.
Okay, perfect.
I guess given,
I'll see if I can get that turned around and have it for at least our next meeting for you guys to take a look at.
Okay.
The regular meeting, you can at least take a look at, see what you like and don't like. Do you want a couple of samples or just one with that in it?
one that you think is the right one.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if ultimately right now our policy is if we're too full, we're going to turn you away. I
Which we're
mean,
doing.
exactly. I mean, that's the thing. If people can't really be angry with us, if we're really just doing the same thing we're doing anyway, we're just making it actually in writing that that's how it's working out. So
I thought the policy already stated that though, that it was space permitting.
It does, but people may not know that we're space permitting.
That's what I'm saying, why can't we put that on the website that the policy is space permitting, we're out of space, so.
Okay.
You can see that too.
like in lieu of changing the policy, Julie, you're saying?
No, just posting on where the application is you only be considered if there's space permitting, and right now we don't have space.
Yeah, we could change the policy like you're
Yeah, we can
stating.
still change the policy, I'm just saying to lower the expectation, so.
We change
we
the
don't get
policy
the-
and put it
Because
there.
they're starting to come in.
Yeah, the applications.
That way it's right there when they go to download it. They'll see
Yeah.
like, hey, at this time, we have no space
Okay.
available for
Yeah.
additional open
We can
enrollment.
definitely add that. Good idea.
They go to click it like, oh, okay.
Why waste my time? You know?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. All right, any other questions for Mr. Burks in reference to what he presented?
Hey, Mr. Fertz, we have this on for the board to be approved
tonight.
tonight.
Okay,
Do you
yeah.
want that moved to next Monday?
The sub, I mean, it would help if we would have an employee out sick between now and then.
So,
But I also know that they typically don't, I
yeah,
mean, it's only on a sub list. It's not like they're working
every day.
every day.
Right.
Or have they already passed the background check?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Lord.
I was just gonna move to place this on, to place that item for vote.
So you're making a motion to hire Terry Staley?
Correct.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, thank you, Lida, for the second. Discussion? I just think it's important to move forward to make sure we have backup. There are several days that we could truly need somebody, so who knows when tomorrow somebody's gonna be out for quarantine or anything else, so I don't have a problem moving forward quickly.
I'd be for putting a couple more substitutes in the queue.
We're trying. I mean,
Yeah.
these are people that have expressed interest in done the work. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
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 Our actual current staff are going out and recruiting people that they think would be good fits.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion?
yeah, if we could get a sub pool of like 10 at every position, that'd be awesome. Just because even if you call Terry Samples, they may not be available, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, especially if she's a substitute, then what if you need both?
yeah,
One's
yeah,
gotta take priority, so.
yeah.
I think it'll work out great. All right, any further discussion? Brandon, could you call the vote, please, sir?
Ms. Sebastian,
Yes.
Ms. Mansfield,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. All right. Thank you for bringing us back to that and keeping us on track. I did have one question, Mr. Burks. So on the teachers list, we always do the ESC. Anytime they change their list, we got to reapprove it. Do we have those are ESC substitutes? Do we have our own substitutes that are on our list or anything, or we just use ESC?
All of our substitutes are through the ESC besides Terry Samples.
Well, yeah, like bus drivers and this.
Yeah, all certified through the ESC.
Okay.
Is that a requirement or it's just?
It's
that's how it
just
is?
because they're the ones that recruit the subs and they use ASOP and it's just an
You're
easier.
asking about classified also, right?
No.
Classified, that's what we're trying to build right now.
Yeah,
have
we
subs.
manage our own, like.
Right. Classified, yeah.
Classified.
Okay.
I was just
Yeah.
wondering on the other. I didn't know, so I just wanted to, my personal clarification.
Yeah, so like your classroom aides typically come through the ESC, your substitute teachers come through the ESC, the district in recent years has not had a custodial service, so that came through your third-party provider. Your bus drivers, you self-employ, so you've had a list of those. Kitchen personnel.
Yep.
You've employed, so you've had a list if they're available, people are interested.
Okay.
And there's not a 2-hour delay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just because they're able to say, hey, you're needed here at this school this day, you're needed at another school, you know? So they get a bigger pull for us. And then every time they add, you just have to approve the appropriate list because that's who staff principals are going to pick from.
The only option I could think of with a certified, like a classroom teacher, or a substitute, would be if the district would ever get to a position where they want to like hire their own full-time everyday sub, would be essentially a floater.
Then after the 61st day, you'd have to put them on.
Yeah. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that'd be the only time you would, in a district our size, that you would look at doing that.
Correct.
And one day they may work in the elementary, the next day in the middle, the next day in the high, and they're here every day. They're your employee, and you put them as you see fit.
Oh, gotcha. Just
One day they're
typically
in
teachers
kindergarten,
don't
next day
have
they're in
a
phys ed.
K through 12. So.
Justin, when you were at Fort Recovery as superintendent, did the ESC manage your sub list as well for certified staff?
Every district I've worked in as a teacher, as a principal, and as a superintendent, our ESCs either in Mercer County or Auglaize County or Shelby, the 3 counties that I worked in from teacher to superintendent. The ESCs all managed teacher substitutes. As Mr. Hattery indicated, those folks are essentially employees of the entire county. So they might be in Miami East today, they might be in Tip City tomorrow, they might be in Bethel the next day. So they kind of go as the work is available and their availability as far as where they want to substitute that. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Brandon, when you were at Dayton, did Dayton manage its subs all by itself since it's a larger district or no?
We had a company that recruited the subs, but
Oh.
we weren't able to find subs for every classroom. They had a guaranteed substitute rate of like 95%.
Yeah. And I think they did away with that not too long
Yeah.
ago. Didn't they?
Yep. It was a firm out, I think, out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, that was a big rigmarole.
All right. Back on to the agenda. Number 9, executive session. I know that we need executive session for number 1 and number 4. Does anybody see anything that we need executive session for other than that?
Number 6.
And number 6. 146. Does anybody have anything else? All right, I would like to invite Ms. Brewer to executive session for the first item. Do we have a motion to go to executive session?
I'll move.
Thank you, Danny.
I'll second Julie.
Thank you, Julie, for the second. Any further discussion?
Expectation of the vote.
Because it's a work session, everything we would come up with out of executive session would be on the agenda Monday for voting, but no expected action after this. Any other? Thank you, Julie. Brandon, call the vote?
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Ms. Mansfield,
Yes.
Ms. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. Moving into executive session at 6:30 PM.